Well, today we're diving into a world where that's not just fantasy. It's like part of the job description.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We're going deep into a declassified training manual from the British intelligence agency GCHQ.
The folks who deal with all things cyber.
Exactly. And you know what? It's not just about code breaking.
No.
This manual reveals how they train their agents to become cyber magicians.
Cyber magicians. Okay, you've got my attention.
It's this crazy blend of cutting-edge tech with psychology, sociology.
And even a dash of old school magic. Right.
Exactly.
It's wild how this training program recognizes that technology is just a tool, right?
Yeah.
The real key to success in cyber operations, it lies in understanding human behavior.
So how people think, react, and make decisions online.
Exactly.
So let's unpack this thing. The manual lays out 4 key areas of training,
Okay.
neatly symbolized in the JTRIC logo.
Okay.
It all starts with online UNT,
Which is basically...
gathering intel straight from the source online.
Right. And alongside that, you have strategic influence.
Yeah.
Where they delve into the art of shaping opinions and behaviors online.
Digital persuasion.
Yeah, it's like digital persuasion on a whole new level.
Then there's the more technical side. Disruption and CNA.
CNA.
Which stands for Computer Network Attack.
Right.
This is where things get a bit more, shall we say, hands-on with systems and networks.
And then there's this mysterious fourth element, right?
Yes.
That's 4.
It's not explicitly defined, but it stands for Science, SIGINT, Skills, and Systems.
It's like the secret sauce that ties everything together.
It's like the underpinnings of it all, right? And so it's not just about hacking skills. It's also about understanding the human element.
Absolutely.
And that's where this human science approach comes in.
They're drawing from fields like...
They're literally drawing from fields like sociology, anthropology, psychology, even economics and history.
It's like they're creating a recipe for understanding the human psyche online. What's remarkable is the emphasis on interconnectedness.
Right.
You've got sociology with its focus on social networks, anthropology with its insights into culture and deception, psychology with its understanding of influence and trust.
There's even economics and religion thrown in there.
I know. It's like, to be effective in the cyber realm, you need a holistic understanding of what makes people tick.
You need to know everything.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, to truly influence someone online, you need to understand their history, their culture, their beliefs, their desires.
Wow.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
But let's get back to these cyber magicians. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, it sounds like something straight out of a spy novel.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's not about pulling rabbits out of hats, but it does involve a bit of misdirection and illusion, right?
Right.
The goal is to understand the psychology of deception, how to subtly manipulate perception and guide behavior online.
Like stage magicians.
Think of it like a stage magician who knows exactly how to control the audience's attention and create convincing illusions.
So it's about mastering the art of subtle influence.
Precisely. And the manual dives deep into specific skills and techniques. They have this fascinating diagram called the ACNO key skill strands.
Okay.
It shows how different skills are applied across various cyber operations.
I see.
For instance, online human relies heavily on individual skills,
Okay.
while influence operations leverage psychology, trust, and deception.
And for disruption and CNA.
That requires a different set of skills: professionalism, elegance, and creativity. Interestingly, the theme of magic techniques and experiment appears consistently throughout the training.
Interesting.
They even have a human science learning path,
Okay.
which lays out a structured approach to mastering these skills.
So it's not just about learning concepts. It's about developing a mindset of creativity and experimentation.
Absolutely. It starts with foundational knowledge of history and culture, then moves to the core, the human aspects of cyber operations. From there, they delve into specific courses like psychology, cyber psychology, disruption techniques, and online human tech.
And it all culminates in advanced training on strategic influence and deception.
It's like they're building a pyramid of knowledge, with each layer adding more depth and sophistication. It's really quite impressive.
It is impressive. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of deception.
Okay.
The manual breaks it down into 2 main categories.
Right?
Dissimulation and simulation.
Okay.
Dissimulation is all about hiding the real think, smoke, and mirrors. creating a diversion to conceal what's actually going on.
So making something appear to be what it's not.
Yeah, or concealing it altogether.
They have these specific techniques, like masking, which is basically hiding the real thing. Imagine those inflatable tanks used to fool reconnaissance planes during wartime. That's classic masking.
Right.
Then there's repackaging, which is about modifying something to appear different.
Okay.
It's like taking a bomber plane and disguising it as a harmless transport plane.
I see.
And then there's dazzling, which is about overwhelming the senses to create confusion.
Right.
Think of the dazzle camouflage used on ships during World War I.
Okay.
Those bold, geometric patterns that made it difficult for enemies to judge the ship's speed and direction.
So it's all about playing with perception and creating a distorted reality.
Exactly. Now, on the flip side, you have simulation.
Okay.
Which is about presenting the false.
Right.
Creating something that isn't really there to mislead the target.
And they break this down into 3 techniques as well.
Yep.
Mimicking, inventing, and decoying.
Exactly.
Mimicking is about appearing to be something you're not.
Right.
Like an insect disguised as a flower to avoid predators.
Inventing involves creating something entirely new and false, like setting up a dummy artillery position to draw enemy fire away from your real artillery.
And decoying.
Decoying is all about luring attention away from the real target.
Okay.
Think of those decoy animals that lead predators astray from their young life. That's a perfect example.
So it's all about playing with perception, creating distractions, and leading people down the wrong path.
Exactly. And they don't just teach these techniques in isolation.
They don't?
They break down the psychology of deception into specific steps. Attention, perception, sense-making, affect, and behavior.
Okay, walk me through that.
So attention is where people focus their mental energy.
Okay.
Perception is what they see, hear, or feel.
Right.
Sense-making is how they interpret the information they're taking in.
Okay.
Affect refers to their emotional responses, and behavior is the actions they ultimately take.
So it's a chain reaction,
Yeah.
starting with capturing attention and ending with influencing behavior.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the manual provides specific gambits for deception for each stage of this process.
Oh, wow.
For example, to control attention, you might use a technique like the big move covers the little move.
I can see how that would work. Distract someone with something big and flashy while you slip something small and important past their notice.
Exactly. Or you might use the principle of the target looks where you look,
Okay.
drawing attention to a specific point by focusing your own attention there.
So it's all about subtle cues and manipulation.
In a way, yes. And for perception, you might use mask mimic to conceal the real or present a false image.
Right.
Or dazzle decoy to overload the senses and create confusion.
What about sense-making? How do you manipulate how someone interprets information?
Well, you can exploit pre-existing beliefs or biases, or present carefully crafted story fragments that lead the target to draw their own but incorrect conclusions.
And for effect, the emotional response.
You might try to create stress or anxiety or leverage shared emotions like patriotism or fear to cloud judgment.
So you're playing on their feelings to make them more susceptible to your suggestions.
Exactly. And finally, for behavior, you can simulate actions or outcomes to mislead the target into taking a specific course of action.
So it's really a comprehensive playbook for deception.
Yeah.
From capturing attention to influencing action. Fascinating and a little bit unsettling, right?
It is. But remember, understanding these techniques is the first step to protecting yourself from them.
That's a good point. Okay, so we've covered the basics of dissimulation and simulation, but let's move on to the next strand of training. Influence and information operations.
Okay.
How does this tie into the bigger picture of cyber magic?
Well, influence operations build upon the psychological principles we've been discussing,
Okay.
but they operate on a larger scale.
Right.
It's about shaping public opinion, influencing political discourse,
Okay.
and ultimately guiding the actions of groups and individuals online.
And the manual outlines 10 key principles for achieving this, right?
Exactly. They call them the 10 principles for influence, and they cover a wide range of tactics.
Cool.
You have time, which leverages the power of scarcity and urgency.
Ah, yes. The classic limited time offer strategy, making people feel like they need to act quickly before they miss out.
Then there's deception, which involves using misleading information to gain an advantage.
Right.
And dishonesty, which is about omitting or fabricating information altogether.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
It does, but I imagine it's all about subtlety and finesse.
Absolutely.
Then you have the herd principle,
Okay.
which taps into our natural tendency to follow the crowd.
Yeah.
If everyone else is doing it, it must be the right thing to do.
That's how trends and viral content spread so quickly, right?
Yeah.
Creating a sense of social proof.
Exactly. And they also highlight the importance of consistency.
Okay.
Building upon established patterns and beliefs to create a sense of familiarity and trust.
Like that classic Coca-Cola logo. It's remained remarkably consistent across cultures and decades, building a sense of familiarity and reliability.
Then there's distraction, which is all about diverting attention away from key issues or information.
Like a magician using misdirection to draw your eye away from the trick.
Precisely. And of course, there's need and greed, which involves appealing to our basic desires for things like wealth, status, or security.
That one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
We're all susceptible to those primal urges, especially in a consumerist society.
And let's not forget social compliance authority,
Right.
which leverages the power of authority figures or experts to influence behavior.
Like those 9 out of 10 doctors recommend claims.
Exactly. Then you have flattery, which appeals to our ego and vanity.
Yeah.
And reciprocity, which exploits our natural urge to repay favors.
These principles might seem simple, but they're incredibly effective when used skillfully.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing how these principles are all around us, especially in marketing and advertising.
Absolutely. Understanding these principles is essential for anyone navigating the digital world today.
So we've got deception, influence, and now let's add another layer.
Okay.
Online human T, or strand 3.
Okay.
This is where they get into the nitty-gritty of eliciting information from individuals online, right?
Exactly. Online human is all about profiling individuals,
No.
understanding their motivations, and leveraging those insights to gather information.
And they actually use psychological models to do this.
Yes, they do.
Like the ocean model, which categorizes personality traits.
Yeah, they use the ocean model.
Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Exactly.
To get a better grasp of an individual's personality and predict their behavior.
It's like creating a psychological blueprint of someone based on their online activity.
Yeah.
And this is where the liking certainty disclosure cycle comes in.
Okay, break that down for me.
The idea is that the more someone likes you and feels certain about your intentions, the more likely they are to disclose information.
I see.
It's about building rapport and trust.
Even if that trust is ultimately misplaced.
It can be seen that way, yes.
Right.
And they use specific techniques to achieve this,
Right.
like mirroring and accommodation.
Mirroring. Isn't that when you subtly copy someone's body language or speech patterns to create a sense of connection?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about creating a subconscious sense of rapport.
Right.
Accommodation is similar.
How so?
Adjusting your speech patterns to match the other person's,
Okay.
making them feel more comfortable and understood.
It all sounds very subtle and calculated.
It is. And it raises some interesting ethical questions,
I imagine.
which the manual actually acknowledges.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the final strand of training. Disruption and computer network attack, or strand 4.
All right.
How does this differ from the other strands we've discussed?
Well, while the other strands focus on manipulating people, disruption is all about directly targeting systems and networks.
Oh, I see.
It's the more technical side of cyber operations,
Right.
involving things like hacking, data breaches, and denial of service attacks.
So it's less about psychology and more about technical expertise.
In a way, yes, but there's still a human element involved, particularly when it comes to identifying and exploiting vulnerabilities.
The manual outlines 6 core actions of disruption.
Exactly. Block, turn, fix, disrupt, limit, and delay.
Wow.
It's all about disrupting the normal flow of information and operations within a targeted system.
And they even have a disruption operational playbook,
They do.
which outlines specific types of operations.
Yeah.
Like infiltration, ruse, set piece, false flag, false rescue, disruption, and sting operations.
It's like a menu of cyber attacks.
Right.
It is quite comprehensive, but what I find particularly fascinating is their emphasis on identifying and exploiting fracture points within a group.
Fracture points. What do you mean by that?
It's about understanding the internal dynamics of a group,
Yeah.
the tensions, rivalries, and ideological differences that exist within any organization or community.
So it's about exploiting those weaknesses to your advantage.
Exactly. You can either push a group together by emphasizing shared opposition, or pull them apart by highlighting their differences.
It's like social engineering on a group level.
Precisely. Now, remember that mysterious S4 element we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Let's circle back to that for a moment.
Okay, I'm all ears. What does it all mean in the context of these cyber operations?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, as the manual doesn't explicitly define it.
Yeah.
But based on what we've learned, it seems to represent the underlying infrastructure that supports all these operations.
Okay.
The science, the signals intelligence, SIGINT, the skills, and the systems.
So it's like the foundation upon which all these techniques are built.
Exactly. It's about integrating technology, expertise, and a deep understanding of human behavior to create a truly effective cyber operation.
This whole training program is incredibly complex and sophisticated.
I know, right?
It's a bit mind-boggling to think about the level of planning and strategy involved.
It is, but it's important to remember that these techniques are not just being used by intelligence agencies.
They're not.
They're being deployed by corporations, political organizations, and even individuals
Wow.
to influence and manipulate others online.
So it's not just about spies and espionage anymore.
No.
It's about all of us navigating this increasingly complex digital landscape.
Exactly. And the more we understand about these techniques, the better equipped we'll be to protect ourselves from them.
Well, that's a sobering thought. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have. We've explored the 4 key areas of training,
Right?
delved into the psychology of deception,
Yes.
and uncovered the principles of influence.
We've even scratched the surface of online humanite and disruption techniques.
It's a lot to process, but it's essential knowledge for anyone who wants to understand how the digital world really works. It really is a fascinating yet somewhat unsettling world.
I know, right?
That we've stepped into.
It is a bit like lifting the curtain and seeing the wizard behind the Emerald City, right?
Yeah.
But hey, knowledge is power, right? And knowing how these tactics work can help us spot them in the wild.
Absolutely. Think of it like this.
Okay.
You're scrolling through your social media feed, and you see a sponsored post for a new miracle skincare product.
Right.
They've got before and after photos, glowing testimonials,
Yeah.
and a limited time discount.
Bells should be ringing, right?
Bells should be ringing, yeah.
Because they're tapping into a bunch of those influence principles we talked about, right?
Exactly.
Scarcity.
Scarcity, social proof.
Social proof, maybe even a bit of flattery.
Exactly. They're using those psychological triggers to nudge you towards a purchase.
Yeah.
But being aware of these tactics allows you to take a step back,
Right.
and ask, is this product genuinely good, or am I being swayed by clever marketing?
That's such a good point. It's like those 9 out of 10 dentists recommend claims.
Right.
Are they really surveying dentists, or is it just a marketing ploy?
And don't even get me started on those weight loss ads with dramatic before and after photos. I mean, Photoshop can work wonders, right?
So it's about being a critical consumer, not just online, but in all aspects of life, really.
Precisely. Question your sources, look for unbiased information, and be wary of anything that seems too good to be true. That critical lens is especially important when you're dealing with controversial topics online.
Oh, absolutely. You stumble upon a website or forum discussing a hot-button issue, and everyone seems to agree vehemently.
Right.
It can be easy to get swept up in the emotion, especially if it aligns with your own views.
That's when you need to be extra vigilant. Are they presenting evidence-based arguments?
Right.
Or just appealing to emotions and biases?
Right.
Look for logical fallacies, cherry-picked data,
Yeah.
and overly sensationalized language.
It's like they say, if everyone in the room agrees, someone isn't thinking.
And on that note, let's talk about echo chambers.
Okay.
Those online spaces where you're only exposed to information that reinforces your existing beliefs.
Right.
It's comfortable, but it can lead to a distorted view of reality.
So how do we break out of those echo chambers? I mean, and make sure we're getting a balanced perspective.
Well, I mean, actively seek out diverse viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
Read articles from reputable sources that challenge your assumptions.
Yeah.
Engage in respectful dialogue with people who hold different opinions.
It's about being open-minded and willing to learn, even if it means confronting uncomfortable truths.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something a bit more sinister.
Okay.
Phishing scams.
Ooh, those are scary. You get an email that looks like it's from your bank saying there's been suspicious activity on your account. You panic.
Yep.
Click the link and bam, they've got your login details.
It's a classic example of how these cyber magicians exploit our emotions
Right.
to achieve their goals. They prey on our fear, our urgency, our desire to protect our finances.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from falling victim to these scams?
Well, I think first and foremost, never click on links or download attachments from unsolicited emails, especially if they're asking for personal information.
Okay.
Always contact the organization directly, right, through their official website or phone number to verify the legitimacy of the communication.
It's better to be safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. And remember, legitimate institutions rarely ask for sensitive information via email.
That's true.
So if something feels off, it probably is.
It's like that old saying, trust your gut, right?
Exactly. And don't let emotions cloud your judgment.
Right.
If you receive an email that makes you feel panicked or pressured, take a deep breath and think before you click.
Okay, so we've covered how to spot deception in everyday online scenarios. But let's bring it back to the training manual.
Okay.
They spend a lot of time discussing the ethical considerations of these techniques, right?
They do. The manual repeatedly emphasizes the importance of operating within legal and ethical boundaries.
Okay.
However, the line between acceptable influence and outright manipulation, it can be blurry,
Yeah.
especially in the world of intelligence gathering.
It's like a tightrope walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Balancing national security with individual rights and privacy.
And it's not just an issue for STIs, right?
Right.
We all face these ethical dilemmas in our online interactions. I mean, how far is too far when it comes to persuasion?
Where do we draw the line between sharing our opinions and trying to manipulate others?
Yeah.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
And with the rise of artificial intelligence,
Right.
things are only going to get more complicated.
Well, I'm sure.
Imagine AI-powered tools that can create hyper-realistic deepfakes.
Yeah.
Write persuasive text that's indistinguishable from human writing.
Right.
And even tailor messages to individual psychological profiles.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
But it's a reality we need to prepare for. AI has the potential to amplify these cyber magician tactics to a whole new level.
So how do we navigate this brave new world of AI-powered deception?
Well, I mean, the same principles apply. Stay informed, be critical, and don't blindly trust everything you see online.
It's about cultivating that healthy skepticism. Right?
Yeah,
And using our critical thinking skills.
exactly. And remembering that technology is a tool.
Yeah.
It can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's up to us to use it responsibly and ethically.
Okay, so we've explored the psychology of deception, the principles of influence,
Yes.
and the ethical dilemmas surrounding these techniques.
We've even touched upon the potential impact of AI on the future of manipulation.
But before we wrap things up, I want to put your cyber magician detection skills to the test.
Oh, I like where this is going. Lay it on me.
Let's play a little game. I'll present you with a few real-world scenarios,
Okay.
and you try to spot the signs of deception.
Ready.
Bring it on. Yeah.
I'm ready to put my knowledge to the test.
Okay, let's jump into our first scenario. You're scrolling through your newsfeed, and you see a post from a friend sharing an article with a really attention-grabbing headline.
Okay.
Something like, "Scientists discover miracle cure for cancer."
Whoa, hold on a second. That's setting off some major alarm bells for me.
Really?
First of all, the language is super sensationalized.
Right.
Miracle cure.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag. Plus, think about where it's coming from.
Okay.
It's a shared post, not from a reputable scientific journal or news outlet.
So it's like a game of telephone.
Right.
The information's getting passed from person to person, and who knows how much it's been distorted or exaggerated along the way.
Exactly. It's a classic example of how misinformation spreads online.
Right.
It preys on our hopes and fears, especially when it comes to something as serious as cancer.
So what's the best course of action in a situation like this?
Well, don't just take it at face value. Do some digging.
Okay.
Look for the original source of the information. Check if reputable scientific organizations or news outlets are reporting on it.
Right.
And be wary of websites or social media accounts that are known for spreading misinformation.
It's all about being a discerning consumer of information. Right?
Absolutely. Okay, ready for scenario number 2.
Hit me with it.
Imagine you're researching a political candidate online,
Okay.
and you come across a website that presents a very polished and positive image of them.
Right.
Their policies are laid out in simple terms. There are heartwarming anecdotes about their community involvement, and even some impressive statistics about their accomplishments.
Sounds pretty standard for a political campaign website, right?
It does, but remember what we learned about perception management and influence techniques.
Okay.
This website could be carefully crafted to present a specific narrative,
Right.
shaping your opinion of the candidate without necessarily giving you the whole picture.
So it's like a highlight reel carefully edited to showcase their best moments and downplay any potential negatives.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about controlling the narrative and guiding your perception.
Wow.
It's essential to dig deeper, look for information from a variety of sources, including those that might be critical of the candidate.
Right.
Fact-check their claims.
And pay attention to what they're not saying as much as what they are.
It's like being a detective, right? Looking for clues and piecing together the full story.
Precisely. Okay, last scenario.
Bring it on.
You're browsing an online forum,
Okay.
and you come across a thread where people are discussing a recent news event. One commenter presents a really compelling argument that seems to go against the mainstream narrative.
Okay.
They use statistics, anecdotes, and even quotes from experts to support their claims.
Sounds pretty convincing, but knowing what we know now, I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
There might be.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about manipulating sense-making?
Right.
This commenter could be cherry-picking data, presenting out-of-context information,
Right.
or even using fabricated sources to push a particular agenda.
So they're essentially building a house of cards. A seemingly solid argument, but built on a foundation of deception.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's why critical thinking is so crucial in the digital age.
Right. Don't just accept information at face value, even if it sounds convincing or aligns with your own biases. Verify sources, check for logical fallacies,
Okay.
and look for evidence that supports or contradicts the claims being made.
Wow. These scenarios really highlight how important it is to be aware of these cyber magician techniques.
Yeah,
They're all around us,
they are.
and they can be really subtle and persuasive.
They can, but by understanding the psychology behind them, we can start to see through the smoke and mirrors.
It's like developing a sixth sense for spotting deception online.
Exactly. And it's a skill that will serve you well in this increasingly complex digital world.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of cyber magicians.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Explored some fascinating concepts and hopefully equipped our listeners with some valuable tools for navigating the online world.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
And the more you understand about these techniques, the better you'll be able to protect yourself from manipulation and make informed decisions.
So, stay curious,
Yes.
stay critical, and stay vigilant out there in the digital wilderness.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.